It's only at events like this that I realise, I suppose, how underrated the whole credit function is in business, and I suppose how misunderstood it is by a lot of people as well. So I have no illusions about credit management in terms of the image it has. I remember when I was young, I'm one of these sad people, by the way, who has spent my whole life working in credit management. And I remember when I was young, at nightclubs and things, and people saying, "What do you do?" And I'd say, "I'm a credit controller," and they'd walk away. So I used to lie and say I was an accountant, which is probably worse, but anyway. So credit management has always got this vision of debt collectors, and that's the image of it. And I must say, having spent my whole life working in credit, that's so far from the truth. It really is. And it has a bad reputation, but in business, if you think about it, credit is a vital function. And most companies, if you hear about people crying, they're crying in business because, oh, we can't get paid, we've had these bad debts. And to me, credit management is at the heart of good business. So credit management, yes, there is a debt collection bit at the end, but that's only the 1% at the very end. What I have found is, if you do credit management correctly, and what I mean by correctly is, so from a credit perspective, what I have to do, if I'm in charge of credit, if I'm a credit controller for a company, I have to make sure we make the right decisions at the start. That we pick customers who have the ability and willingness to pay us. That's your credit function. That's where it starts. And if I make the right decisions about what credit I'm going to give, how much credit I'm going to give, how long I'm going to give, I'm protecting the company that I'm working for. I'm making sure that the sales that we've made will turn into profit and will turn into sales. And then I will make sure that the information flows through the business to a point where the customer pays on the appointed day. And that is the role of credit in business. And I've done it for many, many years, and it's a vital function, and if it's done well, it can be a really customer-focused, customer service job, where if people see you're in the debt collection business, no, I'm not. I'm here, yes, okay, I have to collect the money, you bought the stuff, you have to pay for it, end of story, that's a given. But part of the areas that people don't see in credit, for example, if we're dealing with consumer credit, one of the areas we have focused on very strongly over the last couple of years is the area of vulnerable customers, people who have problems, because we're dealing in the real world. And, I know people who have this image of credit as being the bad guys and the enforcers. I find most of the people I meet in a day's work are people who care. And if you have a credit problem and you owe money and you can't pay it, we have to work it out. There's no point in me fighting with you. That's not going to achieve anything for you or for me. So one of the skills I need as a good credit person is to be able to negotiate. And, these are the things that are invisible within credit. So it's a vital function. And, it upsets me as well with companies, because what I find, the bigger the companies are, the worse they are at credit. And you find you're giving out about customers who aren't paying, and you hear these guys moaning, "Oh, we can't get paid." But chances are, those businesses who are complaining about not being paid are probably not sending out invoices. They're certainly not sending them on time. They don't send them quick enough. Then they get the invoices wrong when they do send them out. They send them out to the wrong people. They don't put purchase orders on them. And then they wonder, what's going on? Now, there's no magic in credit. Just as well, it's not complicated because I'm doing it. I'm a simple kind of person, and I like simple. And so we set up a customer, we set up their terms, we get their invoices right, they know when they're due to pay us, and then it's an automatic function. That's in terms of a career. And there are thousands of people in this town who are working in credit and making excellent careers, and more I'm seeing at the top level, I'll talk about it later on, that there is money to be made in credit as well from a career. And because people don't pay on time, then to me that's job security. And if a company goes into liquidation, the last person to walk out of the building is the credit controller, because what you need more than anything else is to get as much money as you can in, and that's your job. Yeah? So, customer care. And here's another word that mightn't be associated with credit management, is profit focused. And I always saw my job as credit manager as my job is to turn the sales that the sales guys have made into money. I'm the guy who realizes the profit. I'm the reason, like anybody can make sales. Getting paid for it to me that's the rewarding part. That's why we're in business. And if you ask anybody why do they set up in business, the answer is to make money. They didn't set up in business to grow a big debtor's ledger. And yet a lot of people act as if they did. And they're growing their ledger and they're growing their sales and their turnover is huge and their profits are huge and their debtors are huge and they think they're doing real well. And then what happens is reality strikes and they run out of money. And we see every company that has ever gone out of business did so because they ran out of money. And if they ran out of money, it's because they did not take their credit function seriously enough. And I've been preaching this for 20 odd years now, saying, lads, will you just wake up? You know, focus on your credit function. Focus on your credit people. Getting paid is so important. We can't leave it to chance. And if we leave it to chance, it's just never, ever going to happen. So that's putting the whole thing in concept. The reality of credit is, and as I've done it as a day job for so many years, you are somewhere between an accountant, a counsellor, and a detective. So it's a wide and varied job. No 2 days are ever the same. We're dealing with customers. And a lot of people in business, they think, oh yeah, our business is very important and we have to have salespeople who are good with customers. Now, yeah, that's true, although salespeople are promised them the sun, moon and stars and deliver none of it. I've learned that to my life. The fact is though, your credit controller, if they're doing their job, are spending a lot more of their time talking to customers than your salespeople. So you need a credit controller there that cares about the business, cares about the customer. Now, they care about the result as well, because at the end of the day, I am not here to bring forth your inner child, I'm here to get paid. Now, I'll work with you and help you in any way I can, of course. You know, we still have to remember the day job. So that's that. So I'm dealing with customers on a daily basis, and my definition of a good credit controller is in 2 words, problem solver. And I know a lot of credit controllers see the problems as an interruption to their job. I'm saying no. No, it's not an interruption to the job. Problem solving is the job. You are here to overcome whatever problems, be they internal, external, system problems, admin problems, pricing problems, whatever the problems are that interfere with getting paid. That's up to the credit controller to solve. So if you see yourself as a problem solver, and if you're good at solving problems, then this is where the reward comes in, because there's a problem, sorted it, got paid, yes. I make a call, sort out a deal, money hits the bank, yes. And that to me is where the reward of credit is. You can sit behind a desk pushing numbers and moving paper around the desk all day, but when you see the tangible results of the efforts you've put in, that's when it gets exciting. And you make a call on a Monday, the money hits the bank on Tuesday, yes, done it, damn I'm good. And once you get that, that's the hook that keeps you in credit management. And yeah, I can do this, and I can sort out this problem, and I can do that, and I can do... And you get sucked into the business, and that's really where it's all about. Target driven as well. Most credit controllers I know, and all of them should, have a target. So at the end, when you start the month, it's not just come in and do whatever you can. Look, this month your job is to collect. And I don't care if it's 20,000 or 50 million. It depends on the ledger and what's available to collect. So whatever's sitting on the ledger for the previous month's sales, that's your target. So now, and this is something that's missing in a lot of jobs and professions, that when I come in, I know what I'm supposed to be doing. I know what constitutes success. So having that vision and that focus makes a job very satisfying as far as I'm concerned. So we're target driven, and then the buzz of achieving that target every month, and if they give you a bonus, which a lot of companies will, that makes it even more enjoyable as well, because come on, like at the end of the day it's all about money, isn't it? I know we like to be altruistic and have this wonderful idea, but at the end of the day That's what gets us up out of bed. We have these bills that keep coming, and children have to be fed, and you know yourself. So that helps as well. Communications. You have to be excellent at communications to be good at credit control. You have to be a wonderful communicator. You have to communicate internally with your people to make sure they do things correctly. You have to be able to communicate externally with the customers to make sure they do what they do. And sometimes when you're dealing in credit control, particularly when you're talking to people who don't have any money, you're meeting people at their very worst. People tend not to be in good form when they have no money. And if I am the one who reminds them again today that they have no money, then I can be the object of their... But look, that's fine, you know, and it's their problem. How I respond to that, how I deal with that, how I deal with that person, that's where the skill in credit comes. So in order to be good in credit control, you have to be a super communicator. And not only that, but I have to be good at systems, I have to know how they work, procedures, processes, make sure that everything flows. So this is not a simple job, this is very complicated. Somebody said to me once, Declan, credit control, it's not rocket science, it's much more complicated. Because rocket science will follow the laws of physics. And if you do this, then that happens. In credit control, because you're dealing with people and so many variables, nothing happens. You're always adjusting what you're doing and how you're doing it and your approach. So this is where, to me, the rewarding, so maybe I'm not that mad after all. And if you see credit out here on their own, no you're not. You're in the center of business. You're sitting in your finance function, you're talking to your salespeople all day long. The IT people have to build the systems that you need to keep the customers happy. Where marketing usually do pricing, promotions, which is going to impact on me, because if anything goes wrong anywhere here, the customer's only comeback is, I'm not paying you. The marketing people got a promotion wrong, the price was wrong on the invoice, I'm not paying you. I didn't get an invoice because the IT printer broke, I'm not paying you. The sales guy said it was a 10 and you sent me a bill for 15, I'm not paying you. So, in terms of the credit function, we know all the problems that are in the business. We know everything that's going wrong because it ends up on our desk. Now, there are people who just get tired of the conflict and tired of the problems and hate it. And for those people, find something else to do. You know, do your payroll course and sit behind your desk, pressing buttons, that's fine. Credit is a contact sport where you're dealing with people, you're dealing with problems, and if you get a buzz out of solving those problems and hitting those targets, then it's the right job for you, otherwise it isn't. And obviously we have our customers to take care of all day long. To me, I know when you talk to people, they talk about debt collection. To me, credit begins when a salesperson has a lead. Not when a sale is made, when they have a lead. So we get that lead, we vet them, see, are we prepared to do business with them? Then they become a new customer, then we work it all the way through. So the whole cycle from obtaining a lead right through to money in the bank, that's the area of influence of the credit person. And if you have that vision, now you are a vital person to the business. And if you know how to deliver that, you are incredibly valuable to the company that's rewarding you. So what are the areas you need to know to be good at credit management? Well, number one, credit risk assessment. So I need to be able to look at a company and decide, and look, the decision is very simple, by the way. I'll give you a Latin lesson this afternoon. Are you ready for this? Here's your Latin lesson. The word credit comes from a Latin verb, which is credere, which means to believe or to trust. So you've heard of the creed in religious terms. So the credo is, I believe. And you think, what's that got to do with credit? Everything. Because when I give credit to a customer, I'm providing goods and services today, and I'm trusting that they'll pay me at some time in the future. That's effectively what we're doing. And in my 20-odd years as a credit manager, that was always my guiding light. And my question was, if somebody looking for credit, can I trust them? That's it. Can I trust them? And if the answer to that is yes, I will give them credit. If the answer is no, then I can't give them credit. So once we have this guiding light, now, but that's not good enough because I can't go to the finance director and say, no, we're not letting that order go because I don't trust him. So we have to use financial analytics, we have to use payment behaviours, we have to use market forces. So there's an awful lot of science involved. So in order to be good at credit, you have to be kind of numerate and know what that is. I have to be good at administration management to make sure everything flows. I have to be good at cash control, because if I'm in charge of the money for a company, then I have to make sure that every cent is accounted for, and that I have systems and procedures in place to make sure that nothing goes missing on my watch. I have to make sure that my customers are happy at all times. And the funny thing is, happy customers pay. I wrote a book a few years ago called Happy Customers, Faster Cash, which people didn't expect as it from a credit guy. But absolutely, if our customers are happy, they'll pay. So my job is to make them happy. As happy as you can be when you're partnering with money, but that's life, and we gave you a good service, and that's what it's all about. Collections is then the process of making contact with people. Your email is now obviously the main business communication tool, but there's emails, there's texts, there's phone calls, there's visits, there's personal meetings, there's lots of different ways, and knowing the appropriate way to implement the collections and keep the communications open. And then, when all the good stuff that we do all falls on deaf ears, and we have a few people out there who just ignore everything, then this is where we get to the fun part. So if somebody just ignores all my letters, won't pay me, then there is a legal option. And as a credit controller, now I avoid it as much as possible, but look, if I have to, I have to. So as a credit controller, I have to be familiar with the legal. Is it worth it? Do we go down the road? How much it's going to cost? How long it's going to take? So there's lots of considerations to take into account, and that's the job of the credit controller. And then if we do decide, look, the legal route is the only route, then we have to know how to do that with confidence as well. So that's the thing. Now there is a career path in credit as well, and a lot of people don't realise this. There are currently thousands of people working in Dublin in the area of collections. All the major companies in the world now have their collections departments in Dublin. For some reason, Irish seem to be good at this kind of thing. And not only Irish, but again, if you go into those call centres, probably 60-70% are non-Irish nationals. Because if you're collecting money from people, it's good to be able to talk to them in their own language. So on that basis, you find you go into the Microsofts, the Accentures, Facebooks, all of those credit teams are centred here in Ireland. So there are hundreds of people at collection level who are on the phone, doing emails, sorting out credit on a day-to-day basis. And look, for some of them, it's beer money, it's what they do for work. They hate it, but sure, it's a job. And look, for those people, my advice is get out of it as quick as you can, because life is far too short. But when you get to my age, years even start going by quicker, so it is terrifying. So we don't have a minute to waste doing stuff that we don't like doing. So if you hate credit, get out. If you love it, then you're going to succeed. Then we can move up into a credit controller where we're responsible for the credit function. We move into a senior role where we're responsible for everything. Team lead then when we start taking on responsibility for the people within the team, which changes the dynamic. Then I can become a supervisor over the function as well. Credit managers, and right now, like every large company has a credit manager. And again, salary-wise, to put it into context, credit managers would be earning somewhere between 40 and 120,000. It'd be depending on the size and the complexity and the team. So credit managers, they tend to be at that kind of level within management. They're just probably a step below, that's sort of middle to senior management level in most companies. But what we're finding now more and more is that there are credit managers who are being elevated to the board, who are now directors of credit. And if you look at some of the very big companies, and they have credit directors, and these guys are on the mega books. And you know what, they work less than we do. That's the great thing, they have a great life, swallowing off. I'd like to be one of them. And actually the organisation that I work very closely with, which is up there, AICDP, AICDP stands for the Association of International Credit Directors and Professionals. So there are quite a few of them around, particularly in the larger companies. And I think it's only right that people should be directors of credit, because if a function is important, you have a director looking after it. Oh yeah, credit's very important. Yeah, right. And then you delegate it to the lowest level within your organisation and wonder why it doesn't work. Yeah. How does that work out for you? So that's that. I suppose by their nature, and what I'm telling you about credit controls, credit controllers, good credit controllers, tend to be people who have good common sense. Most of the credit controllers that I have employed in my life are not people with lists of academic qualifications. In fact, a lot of the credit controllers I know and work with hated school, didn't really like college. And when I was looking at CVs, which I did, in selecting people, what I was looking for is somebody who worked in a bar or a restaurant. Somebody who could deal with people. That's what I want. I don't want somebody with science degrees coming out their ears who can't talk. So credit control, because of its nature, it tends not to be academic. And what happens then is, people spend 20 years of their lives working in credit, and they've no qualifications. And I suppose the world we live in, I met a gentleman earlier, and he had a great line. He said, he came to Ireland and said that people don't care about people, they care about paper. Piece of paper, that's all they care about. And maybe this is true. So we do have educational opportunities that are practical and academic. So if somebody is looking for a career in credit management, there are international diplomas available. It's 1 year, it's blended learning, so you work from home. We get together twice or 3 times during the year just to keep people on track. We're in touch with them. We don't just abandon people and say, there's your password, see you at the exams in 6 months' time. So there's a lot of hand-holding and stuff. And that's your diploma in credit management. And at least it's a piece of paper that's internationally recognised that you bring anywhere in the world. And there's lots of learning, it's practical, and anybody who's been through it has loved it as well. And then the other thing that we do for a laugh as well is we go into companies and we train people on collection techniques, on risk assessment techniques, on management, administration, and how to do all that good stuff as well. So, in my world in a credit manager, the one thing I found, it was the people in credit management who kept me going. And you need a network, because it's a people business, to know what's happening in the world. So that works. And then through the Association of International Credit and Professionals, they have an office here in Dublin as well. They organise events and networking, webinars, all that kind of stuff. And just even as an advice for people working in credit, what do? I have a situation. Just to have that support network is so important for people, and the association provides that. And even though I'm on the other side of the page here, I provide the education to the association. My company is the credit management training, and look, I'm just one of these sad people who's passionate about credit, and I'll help people in any way I can. And if companies run into trouble or want to know what to do or how to do it, I'm always happy to help and to give advice and encouragement. And you know, I've written books. One of my favourite books that I wrote that's free, so just in case you think I'm trying to flog stuff, I'm not. The book is called The Mentorship, where a group of old credit managers like myself who have war stories from years ago decided maybe we would share our experiences with young credit controllers so they could learn from it. So the book is called The Mentorship. It's available on PDF online. It's free, designed to help people, you know, just to learn from the mistakes that we made. So no, we're not perfect. But the one thing that I insist on with people, and as a manager I used to encourage people to make mistakes, as long as they didn't make the same mistake over and over again. And as long as you keep making new mistakes, then that's okay. But the same one, that's an attitude, I don't like that. So that's that. So there are webinars, industry groups, and then obviously later this year, in order to try to drag this industry out of the bad image that it has, we've a gig on the 18th of October in the Red Cow Hotel, which is the Credit Team Awards, where I'm getting them the dungeon where they're kept for their own safety and everybody else's, and put on a stage and saying, lads, you're doing a fabulous job. You know, you are the guys who are keeping the show on the road, you're keeping the lights on. And just to bring them out for a day and celebrate their achievements. And that's what the awards are. And again, so it's no wonder I'm poor, because there's no application fee or entry fee or any of that stuff. I just want the credit people to get the recognition that they have, and that awards runs on an annual basis to try to raise the profile and people's visibility of credit. So that's more or less what I have to say to you today. I hope I've kind of given you a different view of what credit is and what credit is about. My name is Declan Flood. I also go as the credit coach, because I don't know, something I came up with because I work with people. I've been in credit for close to 100 years now, or maybe it just feels like that. I have been known around the world, which I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. But you know, we're here to help with anything to do with credit. And if you think, you know, just even have a look at it. And if you think, yes, that's something that would excite me, well then come on, let's do it. If it's something that you hate, then run a mile from it. Guys, it's been a pleasure talking to you. I hope I said something sensible, and talk to you later. Take care. Bye-bye.